She wasn't there to prove a point. Elena Ruiz just needed to log flight hours for a civilian contract at Joint Base Lewis-McChord. The morning air hung thick, that damp Pacific Northwest mist that seeps into your bones before the sun can break through. The kind that makes you wonder why anyone built a base in this soggy corner of Washington. The sun struggled over the evergreens, casting faint shadows across the flight line where rotor blades whirred and ground crews hustled. Joint Base Lewis-McChord had housed the 16th Combat Aviation Brigade for years, its hangars weathered and its tarmac cracked with history. The helipad buzzed with Monday morning energy, Apache helicopters rumbling to life, crew chiefs barking orders, the sharp scent of aviation fuel mixing with pine and the faint roast of coffee from the ops tent. It was just another day where protocol ruled and anything out of step drew a raised eyebrow. Elena stepped out of her beat-up Jeep Wrangler, moving with the quiet assurance of someone who danced with danger in the sky. At 48, silver streaked her dark hair tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail that spoke of old discipline. Her right wrist ached, a lingering gift from a hard landing in Kandahar, but her posture stayed firm, a pilot's pride etched into her frame. 5 years out of the Army, yet the cockpit still called to her. The way she scanned horizons, woke at 0430 without an alarm, or kept her flight log meticulous testified to that. Her flight suit caught the eye first. Faded green, worn thin at the knees, the fabric marked by desert dust and too many missions. The name tape read Ruiz, but the rank patch was gone, replaced by a civilian contractor badge. Around her neck hung a cracked ID lanyard, its plastic badge yellowed from years of use, a relic from pre-digital days. She wasn't here to impress. This was just what she'd grabbed for a volunteer gig, flight support, no pay, fuel covered. Between odd aviation jobs, the silence of her apartment had drawn her back to the base. At the flight ops desk, a young lieutenant squinted at her request form, then at her suit. "Hold on," he said, his voice sharp. "You want to fly an Apache?" "That's restricted." Elena handed over her certification, pilot's license, combat flight hours, clearance from the base commander. "I'm qualified," she said, her tone steady. The lieutenant snorted, glancing at his crew. "Qualified? Lady, this isn't a joyride." His team, 2 captains and a warrant officer, chuckled, their laughter echoing off the hangar walls. The taller captain, Morgan, grinned. "Nice try. That suit's a thrift store reject." His partner, Ellis, piled on. "Bet she thinks she's Top Gun." Their amusement grated, but Elena kept her cool, stepping aside as ordered. The warrant officer, Hayes, leaned in, smirking. "Remove the suit or leave. No civilians flying our birds." She began unzipping the flight suit, revealing a plain shirt underneath, when the lieutenant radioed for backup. The crew's jabs grew louder. "Probably got it from a movie set," Morgan said. "Fake pilot vibes," Ellis added. Elena's jaw tightened, but she shed the suit, folding it with deliberate care, the weight of their scorn settling on her shoulders. Unseen across the tarmac, a figure watched, an air marshal, his presence unnoticed until the moment turned. The flight line at Joint Base Lewis-McChord hummed with its usual Monday clamor, Apache rotors chopping the misty air, crew chiefs shouting over the whine of engines, the sharp sting of jet fuel blending with damp pine. Elena Ruiz stood with her faded flight suit draped over her arm, the lieutenant's laughter still bouncing off the hangar walls. Her plain shirt clung to her skin, damp from the northwest fog as the warrant officer Hayes loomed with a clipboard, his face set in regulation steel. "Move it," he snapped, pointing toward the gate. The captains, Morgan and Ellis, lingered, their fresh bars gleaming like badges of authority. "Looks better off," Morgan quipped, adjusting his headset. "Surplus store special," Ellis added, smirking. Elena's hands tightened, but she held her tongue, her right wrist throbbing from the old injury. A silent echo of missions these novices couldn't imagine. The crew waved her toward the exit, her certification papers now a discarded formality in Hayes' hand. She slung her gear bag over her shoulder, the weight pulling at her neck where a faint scar traced its way, a memento from a near miss in the cockpit hidden beneath her collar. The lieutenants trailed her, their voices low but cutting. "Bet she's got fake logs," Morgan said, loud enough to carry. "War stories for the bar," Ellis piled on. Elena ignored them, her mind drifting to the Afghan skies where that suit had guided wounded out under fire. The flight line buzzed on, radios crackling, boots scuffing tarmac, but the air felt denser with each taunt. Then a shadow crossed her path. A ground crew mechanic loading ammo paused, his eyes catching the edge of her neck as she adjusted her bag. His face tightened, and he muttered something under his breath before turning back to his work, moving with a haste that broke protocol. Elena barely noticed, her focus on the gate. The lieutenants, now joined by a third captain, Torres, escalated their jeers. "Probably claims ace pilot status," Torres said, leaning against a fuel truck. "No wings, no proof, just a poser." Their laughter drew a small crowd of crew and MPs, feeding off the safety of rank. That's when the hum of the flight line faltered. A figure emerged from the control tower, his uniform crisp, silver wings on his chest catching the weak sunlight. Air Marshal Colonel James Carter moved with the deliberate pace of a man who'd logged combat hours, his weathered face scanning the scene. The lieutenant straightened, their smirks fading. Carter's eyes narrowed as Elena turned to lift her bag, her shirt shifting to reveal a tattoo on her neck. A sleek Apache silhouette with a date, 06, etched beneath it. The crowd stilled, the air thickening with unspoken recognition. Carter stepped closer, his voice cutting through the mist. "Hold up," he said, his tone carrying the weight of command. The MPs paused, the lieutenants froze, and Elena turned, her expression unreadable. Carter's gaze locked on the tattoo, his jaw tightening. "That mark," he said almost to himself. 160th SOAR, 06 Helmand. The flight line held its breath, the fog seeming to part as history loomed large. The flight line at Joint Base Lewis-McChord stood suspended in a damp hush, the Pacific Northwest mist swirling as Air Marshal Colonel James Carter fixed his gaze on the tattoo etched across Elena Ruiz's neck, a sleek Apache silhouette with 06 beneath it, a silent testament to a shadowed past. The lieutenants, Morgan, Ellis, and Torres, stiffened, their earlier laughter dissolving like fog under the sun. Crew members and MPs halted mid-task, radios falling silent, the chopper blades whir fading into the background. Elena straightened, her faded flight suit still folded over her arm, her expression a blend of resolve and guarded pride. The air thickened, heavy with a history the young officers couldn't fathom. Carter stepped closer, his voice steady but laced with memory. "Helmand, 06, he said, his eyes tracing the tattoo's lines. 160th SOAR took that night op, pulled my bird out of a hot LZ when the Taliban swarmed. You flew cover." Elena nodded once, her tone measured. "Red team. Held the ridge while you extracted." The words hung like smoke, carrying the weight of a mission where rotors buzzed through gunfire and sand turned to ash. Carter's jaw tightened, his mind flashing to the chaos. 2 Apaches down, 19 men trapped, and a shadow pilot carving a path out. "That Apache," he murmured. "No logs, no glory, just survival. Triple black." The flight line's silence deepened, the crowd exchanging wary glances. The lieutenants shifted, their taunts a faded echo. Carter turned sharply, his voice slicing the mist. "I need the ops chief, now!" An MP sergeant sprinted toward the tower, returning with a major who saluted crisply. "Sir!" Carter cut straight to it. "This is Chief Warrant Officer Elena Ruiz, 160th SOAR, Helmand, 06. She flew cover under black protocol. Full clearance, full access. Get her in that Apache, no delays. That's an order." The major's eyes flicked to the tattoo, recognition sparking. "Yes, sir," he snapped, motioning to the crew. "Prep the bird now," the lieutenants whispered among themselves. "SOAR?" Morgan muttered. "Never heard of it." The major overheard, his tone cold. "You wouldn't? Classified beyond your rank." Elena's gear, flight helmet, maps, comms, was rushed to the Apache, the crew moving with newfound respect. Morgan approached, his head bowed. "Ma'am, I apologize. Didn't know." Elena's gaze was firm. "You didn't ask," she said, the words a quiet rebuke. He nodded, chastened. "I will next time, ma'am." She gave a slight nod, letting the lesson sink in. Carter walked her to the helicopter, the flight line resuming its rhythm but transformed. "Not a handout," he said quietly. "Honor." As she climbed into the cockpit, the air marshal saluted, a gesture that rippled through the crowd. By evening briefing, the tale would spread. Elena, the ghost in the worn suit, a pilot reborn. The Apache's blade spun up, lifting her into the mist, the tattoo a hidden badge of valor, recognized by those who knew its price.